Hello, everyone. Welcome to my family documentary. My name is Elfrida Desvines. I am the daughter of Valerie Ann Desvines, who was born in 1950.
Hello, welcome. I'm your co-host today, Matt Johnson, Andre Harrison, Desvine, a family documentary of hidden lies and secrets. My mother, Valerie Desvine, born in the year 1950 here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Her father, Joseph Bazil, aka Emile Desvine, and her mother was Beatrice Thomas. And I hope that you guys enjoy our first part one of the segment. Welcome, guys. Today we all the way live here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm standing right now currently on the block when my grandfather Emile Desvine and my grandmother Beatrice Thomas started their lives in the year my mother Valerie Desvine was born in the year 1950 on a road called Polga Street. All right, guys, we have another awesome footage that we discover, family documentary. I'm standing right now on a property where my mother, Valerie Desvine, got baptized in the year 1950 by Reverend Dr. James. Right here in these doors, Emile Desvine and Beatrice Thomas, aka Joseph Bazil, married our grandma Beatrice Thomas and brought my mother here through these doors and baptized her in 1950.
I can remember when my mom would used to tell us that my grandfather, he would never ever let them go outside by themselves because he was so overprotective of them. He would not let them go to their family members' house. They has family there too in New Orleans as well as cousins, and they were not allowed to go by their house. He would walk them to school and walk them home, would not take his eyes off of them. He just was protective of them, and the reason why is because he was in the Nazi camp. And I can understand now why he was so overprotective of them. The things he went through, being in the hospital, being in a Nazi camp, and other things that he went through in his life, protecting my mom and her siblings. Now, as far as the research, every little piece that they would find would be so overwhelming to them. Sometimes they would have to just stop and put things to the side because it would make them so upset and to where they would be speechless. I have been there seeing my mom do research and watching her and her siblings be speechless from the things that they find. But for me to know that I am part of royalty, it's a blessing.
My name is Elfrida Desvines. I am the daughter of Valerie Ann Desvine, who was born in 1950. I am the granddaughter of Emile Eugene Desvines, who was born in 1910. And I am the granddaughter of Beatrice Thomas Desvines, who was born in 1916. And they all are from New Orleans, Louisiana. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit about my mother, Valerie Desvines, and also a little bit about my grandfather as well. My mother, again, was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. She was uprooted to Long Island, New York when they had a really bad storm in Louisiana. And she was uprooted to Long Island, New York, where I was born, and my brother Mac and my sister Tiffany. But my mother was a very, very loving person. She had a caring heart. She would do anything in the world for anyone. Her passion was modeling and acting and helping the community. My mother lived in New York, and she was married at one point. She did get married right before my grandfather passed away. She did get married to my daddy, and my daddy name is Jimmy Mac Johnson Harrison, aka Lenny Curtis. And so my mother and my dad, they got married. They relocated to California with my brother Jimmy Jr., who unfortunately, rest in peace, brother Jimmy. My brother fell out a window in California at the age of 8 years old. So my mother and my father lost their firstborn son, which was devastating to my mother and my father. I didn't get to really know my older brother Jimmy Jr. It was sad to hear what happened to him, and it really devastated my mother and my father to the point where when they moved back to New York, they kind of separated. Don't ask me if they ever got a divorce. Don't know. My mom, unfortunately, she passed away from breast cancer in 2013, which was devastating to the whole family, of losing the backbone of this family, the person who was the attorney for this family, the person who was a mother to her nieces and nephews who lost their parents. Someone that will open up their home to anyone that's in need. When Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, my mother housed 18 families in her home. 18 families was living in my mother's home in Cobb County, Georgia. And she made sure everyone was taken care of that time. That's how passionate my mother was and how much she loved her family. Don't go to her talking negative about any of her family members, because she will not listen to you. My mother was known for her famous macaroni and cheese. Everyone loved my mother. Macaroni and cheese. My mother used to deliver dinners. She used to cook for the church. She used to sell dinners to raise money for the outreach program that she started in Cobb County, where she started an outreach program inside one of the schools. It was mentoring and teaching the kids life skills. My mother wrote a book, coordinated the book, arranged the book, and got the book published. But unfortunately, my mother got sick. And once she got sick, that's what ended the research from my mother, because she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and we all didn't know. So we all had to deal with the loss of my mom. They never went back to court in 2005. All the judge told them, do like the Jeffersons, bring me back the DNA, and we could go from there. And that was the last of it. Once my mother passed, the family kind of like just died off for a while, But I promised my mom that I would finish the research. I would finish the fight for her. Any means necessary, I'll do what I have to do to finish the research. So what I did was I requested the family union books from one of my mother's siblings. And I got the book. I went, got all the pages printed out. And I went and I sat somewhere quiet where I can focus, where I can read everything that was put in that family reunion book. This research stuff did not start until they put that information in that book. Until my grandmother's family told my mom and them certain things. So I looked at the names in the book and I highlighted them. But the part that was very confusing to me was when I seen the Emil Eugene Desvines, and then I seen a Paul Emil Julian, where it was something showing that Paul got shot by the Nazis. Emil got captured and was put in a concentration camp. And then how Emil got captured is because Julian went to Louisiana, and somewhere about between 1939 and 1940, he turned Emil in. So I found one of my grandfather's cousins, and you know, I talked with his granddaughter and his her mother, and I connected the dots there and reunited with my grandfather's cousin, where I made it so that my mother can go and meet, you know, her father's cousin before she passed away. And I want to say this: my mother was not in it for the money. Like, they was not in it for the money. They just wanted closure about their father. They wanted closure because other family members on my grandmother's side and my grandfather's side kept telling them stuff. And then they put clues in the family reunion book. You didn't think for one moment that they, at some point, they were going to start questioning all the lies that was told to my mother all these years of her life before she left this earth? My mother left this earth not knowing the truth about her father. But I'm here today to tell you. I'm here today to tell you, and I'm not going to stop fighting. I want justice for what happened to my mother, and all just my mama laying on the couch, and everybody attacking her, and she's trying to help, and she's laying on the couch crying. You don't know how that hurted me to see my mother laying on the couch crying. Because people were going after her, they were yelling and screaming at her and telling her she's trying to put the, you know, the pieces together to resolve what these people put in the book. What was wrong with that? Being attacked, being called a liar, and just was so much my mother could bear. And this is why I'm willing to fight for her. I just want to share my story with anybody that is going through the same thing that we're going through, as far as DNA, as far as finding out the truth. Because I'm going to tell you, what happened in the past is in the past, but we are a new generation, down to my kids and their kids. We ain't with the secrets. We ain't with the lies. We want the truth. And if it took us doing DNA, that's what it took us to do. DNA. It's not our fault that y'all allow these DNA sites to charge people money to find out their real connection to loved ones. Now, before I end my part of this story, I do want to share that, again, once I put the names, and I found all the documents, and I paid for the documents that Ancestry had on there, that's when I went to a family member and I said, hey, I want to hire a genealogist because I feel like I need her to break down some of this stuff that I found on Ancestry. I need to understand. I need to find granddaddy's birth certificate. We can't find granddaddy's birth certificate. I need to find grandma's birth certificate. I need to know where granddaddy's from. We just need to know. Like, I want to know. You know, so I hired a genealogist here in Cobb County, Georgia. And I gave her all the information that I researched, certain documents my mother had. I just gave it to her. And I said, can you just look up, you know, some information, just connected the dots or whatever. And so she shared some things. She sent me an email. She shared some things with some names. I even asked her to do a tree on my grandmother because I wanted to know where my grandmother was. Not only was we worried about my grandfather, where he was, we wanted to know more about our grandmother as well, because we were told as kids that our grandmother, Beatrice, was, her mother died at birth having her, and that she was raised with her father, Gabriel Thomas, and that her mother name was Rose Thomas. Her mother died, from what they said, her mother died when she had her. Okay, so this was a story that was told to us all these years about our grandmother's mother. So one of my family members had called me one day and was like, hey, I found this document. I want you to take a look at it. On Granddaddy. I found some information on Granddaddy, but I had a friend of mine who live in France do some research for me in France, and this is what he sent to him about our grandfather, Emile Eugene Desvine of 1910. So he sent it over to me, and so I looked at it. I was like, oh my God, I was freaking out. And the names and the stuff, I was like, oh my God. This is saying that Granddaddy was a part of a concentration camp. This is saying that this is a war card, that he was in the war. Oh my God, this is history. So I emailed the genealogist. I said, hey, I have some good information for you about my grandfather. Is there any way that you could give me an overview of these documents about my grandfather that my cousin found in France? Can you give me an overview so that I can share with the family? So she did.
In part 3 of our family documentary, Alfreda discovered her grandfather were part of a historical event. The discoveries not only enriches her family legacy, but also inspire her to preserve her family roots. The overview containing a war card that talked about her grandfather. This document states that Emile de Vigny was admitted to a hospital on Oct Ward 1944. He is a French citizen. The name of the hospital is not clear. This document states Emile de Vigny was a French citizen and was admitted to an institution on August 17, 1942. This was not a hospital. I believe this was a prison. If this is your Emile de Vigny, who was born in 1910 and married Beatrice Thomas in 1933 in New Orleans, then he must have been in France from 1942-1945, after the Nazis invaded France in 1940. So then where were all his children in 1942-1945 born?
Hello everyone, welcome back to a family documentary. My name is Alfreda Desvines, and I will be talking to you all about how I got into doing my own DNA. Well, how I got started was after, my mother passed away. Again, I started where she left off, pretty much. And so, according to what the last judge stated, that in order for us to get our inheritance, we all had to provide DNA. So I went to my brother and I said, hey, I went over all the research with my brother. I told him everything that I found and how we need to link up. I showed him the documentation stating, the we all needed to do DNA to link up to the inheritance and to link up to the person who the estate is in. So I went to my brother and I asked him to do a DNA, and he did. And so once he did his DNA, he went over, we went over what we saw on his DNA. It started with his, and the names that Ancestry linked him to was the same information that I researched, and it was mind blowing. And so I said, let me do my DNA. So I did a DNA on Ancestry, I did a DNA on Family Tree, and I did a DNA on 23andMe. Okay? And I tell you, that's when stuff started hitting the fan. When my brother did his DNA and I did my DNA, and it linked me and my brother as siblings, as brothers and sisters. It had a list of names who I was related to. And as you can see on the slideshow, it shows you the name who I'm linked up to.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're giving it to you raw. I'm giving you some raw information. I got brought into this situation years ago when my sister kind of addressed a little situation to me that mom was going through a court proceedings, and for some reason she wanted me to do a DNA. How odd is that? A DNA test. Like I said, my sister came to me and said she wanted me to do a DNA. And this is not like a DNA that you take like if you're doing a paternity test or something. This came from a site called Family Tree DNA. So when my sister had me do a DNA, we started to do other DNAs to kind of dig in a little bit more of what we're trying to actually find out about having facts. Back in 2003, my mom was going through a court proceeding in Louisiana, Bon Ton. Oh, back to Bon Ton. So when the French came over to the Red Pole City, okay, which is Louisiana. That's why Louisiana is a French state. Anything you do, anything you file, you got to be up under the French laws because Louisiana is a French law state. So if any of you guys trying to file information out there, you got to make sure that your paperwork is correct. Because I'm talking about, I don't care if it's estates or successions, you have to file because it is a Napoleon law state. Say Louisiana, Red Pole City, Bon Ton, which is currently named to this day Baton Rouge. So you got Red Pole, and the Indians owned Louisiana. The Italians, the Europeans, the Haitians, they came over trying to take over, and it was called Bon Ton. That's when the French came over. Bon Ton. Now everybody hands is in it, but it's still a French state. Now it's called Baton Rouge to this day. So Louisiana is a French state. Anything you file in the state of Louisiana, successions, estates, whatever, you still gotta file it because it's a Napoleon law state. So during the time my mom was going to court, and they was looking into a lot of stuff, like trying to find out things that, they wanted to know about their rightful heirship to a family that had an inheritance or had everything. Pretty much they had the plug to the plug to what we've been doing research for so long, but they never found out who those people were. They just was kind of giving them a hard time. I found out when I did outside of Family Tree DNA, I did another DNA test. It was called 23andMe. When my results came back, there were a bunch of people that I matched up with on my DNA. And this is 23andMe right here, guys. Show you this. And they give you an actual book. See that there? They give you an actual book. on 23andMe. And as you can see my name right there, Matt Johnson Harrison Desveen. This is my DNA book. And it has everything from an ancestry, composition, maternal haplogroup, paternal haplogroup as well. On this same exact DNA that I took, I linked up because my mom was trying to find out about a particular family that everybody evidently was so scared to talk about and reveal to them. They were kind of like beat around the bush with it. You know, they wouldn't actually tell them, you know, who was who and what was what. But some type of way, I ended up linking up with one of those family members. They contacted me because my mom just couldn't figure out, you know, like, who is this family? Why are people so afraid? Why they won't tell us? Because as they were growing up as kids, my grandfather was so secretive. When he would call them, he would kind of whistle their name. And when you heard that whistle, they had to go. They had to go back to the house. If you didn't come back in when you heard that whistle, you was in trouble. My grandfather lived multiple lives. He had different wives. My mom didn't know. He had a whole different life before he even got with my grandma. Evidently, his first wife, she went by the name Eleanor. They called her Leonora. My grandpa, his name back in the day was Joseph. They called him Joseph, Joe. So my mom never knew this. They didn't understand. So grandpa was in the wars. They had to go to war. And what happened was he was married to another female by the name of Eleanor. He got married through the Catholic Church to Eleanor. Eleanor was Indian, 100% Indian. Eleanor. He had kids with Eleanor. And evidently one of his children's I linked up with on 23andMe. And me and this individual kind of linked up. And they was in Louisiana. They were very warm, they were very welcoming, but also at the same time they were shocked. Their last name was Bazils. Basil, Bowden, Butlers. Like, it's so much that I really just don't understand. Like, it's just so much stuff going on. But anyway, we're still trying to track a lot of stuff down to get firm information about where point A to point B. But anyway, let's get back to Joe, okay? When he was married to Eleanor, his name was Joe. His daddy was Joseph Bazil Sr. He was Joseph Bazil Jr. And this Joe, he went by Joe under Eleanor. And then when he got with my grandma, he had to change his name to Emil. And that's where a lot of this confusion is coming from, because we're trying to put all the pieces and puzzles together, which we have all the documents right here. We got all the proof and everything leading back to this Joe. Emil is being the same Joseph Bazil. How we know is because his mother was Eugenie Jeannie Desveen. And Eugenie Jeannie Desveen daddy was John Amon Desveen, or whatever his last name was, but John Amon was Eugenie Jeannie, which is my great-great-grandmother, Eugenie Jeannie's daughter. John Amon was the son of Jean-Jacques, was the son of, now I'm talking about Jean-Jacques of 1773, and then you had another Jean-Jacques, because they kept the name like a trilogy. Like that Jean-Jacques name was like a trade pattern to keep it, to show the relations, because nobody ever was named Jean-Jacques like that unless you were related to a particular family to carry that name, Jean-Jacques. And another powerful name was Pascal Desveen, that led all the way back to France. Like a lot of this stuff is like dated. Like, we are so plugged in, it's just unbelievable. So much stuff to tell you. But basically, my mom was like digging and dabbing. They wanted to find out, you know, where they come from. That was their goal. They didn't care about money, none of that. All they wanted to do is find out where they come from, who was their relatives. But when they found out who these relatives was, they found out they had a purpose in their life, that they were entitled to an inheritance that has connections to deal with the government. See, what happened was when Grandpa was in the war, he was born Part G, and it's just, he was in the concentration camp out in Canada, in Quebec. He was at the concentration camp when Hitler had captured all the Jews. Grandpa was on that ship. He was up there. It states it. He was there. And what sounds interesting is that when we started digging and dabbing in this DNA, because we not only did 23andMe, but I also did Ancestry. Ancestry had linked me up to the same Bazille family. They're in denial, but we are related. Not 100%, but we are half, because like the same grandpa, like my grandpa was Emil. Their grandpa was Joseph. Now check this out. When my dad died in New York City, they were in Kings, New York. There was grandma told her brothers not to worry about the burial, because there's a family that's gonna come get his body and bring him back to Bon Ton, Baton Rouge, Red Pole City, to bury him. So they was like, okay, cool. They let him go back. So then when they found out, when they went to the funeral, my mom them was going there to see Emil, and this other family went down there to see Joseph. But it was the same person, because he lived two separate lives. So basically, after he had passed, my mom had family members that was telling her, go get your money, go get your money, go get your money. Never knew what she meant. She never knew what she meant. Go get your money, go get your money. We don't live on want to be rich like that. We just said, okay, brush it off our shoulders, call it a day. But anyway, so my mom them kind of just buckled down like back in 2003, and they had to hire a lawyer, of course. They went to court. They found out who was the executive that was over the estates. For some reason, they just couldn't contact them. They kept fighting and fighting and fighting. They went to court. They tried to do everything they can to try to take it back to court, but the courts kept refusing them, throwing their cases out, saying, hey, you're not doing it right. 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 They went out front in Louisiana. They did the flags, and I forgot, picketing. That's what they call it, picketing. They went picketing in front of the courthouses because they wanted to find out, like, yo, why y'all not allowing us to file our case? So as time kept going by, my mom, of course, 2003, when they went to court, they had a lawyer by the name of Richardson. Mr. Richardson kind of disappeared after he had a stroke, but we have documents that states that Mr. Richardson was in contact with the trust, the people that has the money. He was in contact with them, and they were ready to negotiate somewhere in Red Pole City, Bon Ton, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was in contact with the people that had the money. And my mom them asked them, well, what do we need to do? So Mr. Richardson told them, you need to get me a DNA, get your birth certificates. There was a curator assigned to the executive, and that's another story. But anyway, the curator came out for the executive. That's showing proof that there is something there. But then the judge kind of told them, look, her exact words was, go do what the Jeffersons did. Y'all got to dig down and find out what the Jeffersons did to get their inheritance. But this is what this judge told my family to do. Do what the Jeffersons did. And they come back and see me. So since 2003, case just been sit. Judge never closed it. Just been sit. So one day, my sister, like I said, we started doing this 23andMe, finding out about all this information that we needed to show proof that we were actually who we are, because this is what the judge was demanding for us to come back with DNA tests. Now, keep in mind, I not only did 23andMe, but I also did Ancestry. I did MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA. I've done them all because I wanted to find out. And as you can see here on this one particular paper, that we were linked up to the Bazile people. See that name right there? Troy Bazile, right there. Troy Bazile. See that? Alfonso Bazile. We are related to the Baziles. Now the Baziles, in order for us to be related to them, Joseph Bazile was Emile Desvin. Because how can we be related? Half related. So after I started digging and dabbing and I started getting up and linking up with all these different people that I had no idea about, and then when this one person, her last name was Harris, but as you can see here, when me and her linked up, it shows right here that if you can see it, see where it say Joseph Bazile right there, all of this, that's Joseph Bazile, Melvina, Browser, Kipsis, L. Green, and Humphrey. Now, over here, it shows Joseph Bazile right there of 1882. Joseph Bazile of 1882 to 1966. And here's Eleanor Francis of 1878 to 1925. This Joseph right here, there was a Joseph, but that Joseph passed away. But they had a few kids, which you can see they was hiding private. But this man is my grandfather, Joseph Bazile. That's my grandfather. We have that document right here showing proof, okay, that we're connected to these people, but they in denial. So basically, when we started investigating that, stuff started getting real hot. So once I got everything that I needed to have, and that was off of Ancestry, and this is MyHeritage. I mean, like, everything is here. We started finding out that we were related to a Scottish king from Scotland. They call him Niall of the Nine Hostages. And also we found out that our family came from the bloodline of the Knights of Templar. I have a document here where this guy right here, he had a question, and this is from a dude named Mayo. He said, I'm definitely interested in solving both our family mysteries. My mother's side is easy to trace with no surprise or secrets. Now, on both my father's side, there are things that aren't adding up. With the DNA and oral history, I think our connection is an answer to at least one part of my father's side of the family and mystery. He was talking about my mother, and this is showing proof. I'm still trying to figure out, your mom is on my father's mother's side of the family, the Flood family, the Floods, or if she's from my father's paternal side of the family, Praters. Some of you guys know the Floods, some of you guys know the Praters. But the funny thing is that so far my DNA doesn't match any Floods or Praters. So there may be paternity issues on both sides of my father's family of some kind of name change that is associated with the paternal lineage that rooted in Asia and West Asia. West Asia would include Turkey, Pakistan, or even Middle Eastern. I looked at his DNA makeup, and he indeed has Asia listed, some Middle Eastern and Eastern Europe, which might link him to the Prater family, part of our family. Now, I'll have to explain the mystery, which really isn't a mystery, of the Prater side of the family. My paternal great-grandmother always showed us a picture of our great-grandfather growing up, and the first time when my sister saw him, we were asked as little kids if he is white because he looked white. She laughed it off and said no, he was not a white man. She said his name was Carol Prater, and they were married. I'm not sure if the man pictured married. In-depth research. Let's see here. Okay, this one says that back then classified Jewish or non-Western European, non-white, but my DNA very test confirms he was at least Eastern European and some sort of Middle Eastern, if not Jewish. So I'm wondering if there's a connection with your mom and Prater, and if I have a paternal connection with the surname Desvines, or if Prater is still somehow connected with me. So far, Prater is not adding up to being connected to my DNA. Anyhow, he was asking if I had, he said, do you have a picture of your great-grandfather from Belgium or France? How certain that are you that he is French and not from another part of Europe, which I did not know. He said right here also, do you know of Lillian and Prater maiden name Watson, or Mackley Watson, her brother? As for the Flood side of the family, I see we have in common a relative with surname Richardson. Do you have a lot of Richardsons in your family? Richardsons. It can be just a coincidence, but I have Richardsons in my family tree that's connected to the Floods. But Richardson is a common name and it's not necessarily conclusive. Lastly, he was asking if my family from Louisiana, but this one right here is the one that I want you guys to pay attention to. I want y'all to hear me out good when I tell you this. This was from the same guy showing the royalty. He says, wow, deep. I read the comment under the video because we have a documentary, or the first documentary of the stuff that was happening in Louisiana. So I told him, go look at the documentary, get back with me, and let me know what you think. So after this male guy had hit me up, he saw the video. So then he goes, wow, deep. I read the comment under the video and I think I'm becoming more clear about some things. I was wondering why I had such a strong familial and DNA connection to Louisiana. Although I know of no family from the area, so it fits in with the mystery of at least one of my paternal great-grandfathers. And if it's the Prater side of the family, it would fit in with your family's mystery as well. It is very hard to find or trace the family line of Praters. Very hard, because they play in this hide and seek business. It's weird. I believe also, as I stated before, my grandmother said that my great grandfather was of Jewish descent, which again would tie me to the Middle East as well. There was a lot of migration from the Middle East to the Eastern and Southern Europe by the Templars and Jewish descendants. Although I know the Knights Templar were Catholic, but all roots begin in Jerusalem, if I'm not wrong. This is what this guy's saying, not me. Anyhow, I'm going to take the information you gave me and do more thorough research over the next few months. I'm glad you connected to me, because now I at least know my Louisiana connection. See, everything boils back to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Bon Ton, the Red Pole. Because I know at least my Louisiana connection attached, find a picture of my great-grandfather. My great-grandmother gave me of my great-grandfather Prater. Let me know if he looks familiar. The picture has been digitally cleaned up, so the eyes are a little pixelated, but otherwise, that's how he looked in the original picture of my grandmother that gave me. And again, she said his name was Carol Prater. She married a Carol Prater, but the identities don't match up upon research. So take his name with a grain of salt. It is possible there was an arrangement for her to marry someone else when she was pregnant with my grandfather, and that she couldn't marry the man in the picture because the laws of during that time. So basically back in the day, you couldn't marry a black person. But this is that Prater guy. You see that? This is that Prater guy. He look white, don't he? He's mulatto. He's black. Louisiana. Everything went back to Louisiana. So anyway, after I started getting all this information, all the stuff that I needed to find out about family Praters, being descendants of the Jewish bloodline, and right here, black and white, dude said we are direct descendants to the Knights Templar. So I kind of like was trying to put everything together, and I was trying to figure out. So we got all the DNAs done, and we end up getting the paperwork that the judge said something about us happen to, do like the Jeffersons. So my mom was trying to do that in 2003. Now, she passed away in 2013. Rest in peace, Mama Valerie Desving. I love you. She, her race didn't stop because one of my sisters took control of it. Then me and her tagged team and started doing research. So we went down and we had, there was a judge named Judge Griffin in Louisiana, putting it out here raw and uncut. Judge Griffin. I ain't hiding no names. Judge Griffin told them, do like the Jeffersons. This was off the record. Told the court reporter, shut it down. That was it. So after we got everything together, me and my sister, we kind of went back and we started doing our homework. So after we had met up with these Bazille people that we feel probably is a connection, as you see in the video, God placed it on my heart to go try to file for a hearing date, go back to court and try to fight for this thing some more. So anyway, we submitted DNAs, we submitted everything that we assumed that we needed. Head of the administration, which we had to do, I had to file the administration for my mom as the head person, Valerie, that's me. And when I did that, odd thing about it is that when I went down to Cobb County Courthouse, I went to go see a prepaid legal lawyer, and that lady kicked me out of her office. She said, you don't qualify. I said, why not? I just gave her my mom's name, Valerie Desving. She kicked me out her office and said, you gotta go. I can't help you. Conflict of interest. That blew my mind. Period. Scared the heck out of me, man. But anyway, we go down to Baton Rouge, Red Pole City, Bon Ton. Went down there sometime last year, 2024. I believe it was like April or March. And we end up getting connected back to the judge. Evidently, there was a new judge that took over, Judge Medley. She was the acting judge because it was in another division when evidently Judge Griffin had went to the Supreme Court. So they forwarded to my mom, the case that my mom had, they forwarded to Judge Medley, Jennifer Medley. So we met up, me and my sister, we met up with Judge Medley. And she was real nice. She said, hey, look, you don't need a lawyer. Everything is fine. You good to go. She said, we know how to help this out. I even had an airship letter that this one particular guy, he went by the name of John Jacques. I called him John Jacques. She corrected me and said, no, it's Jean Jacques. Jean Jacques. I had an airship letter. She said, don't worry about it. I can read this. We got you. Don't worry about it. You don't need a lawyer, none of that. I said, okay, cool. She said, the only thing I want y'all to do is let the family know. So we did that. Let the family know that, you know, what Judge Medley told us. We just everybody got to get their DNAs turned in. We had to get the administration and all that. So then in the month of November, I believe it was November the 9th or the 2nd or something like that of 2024, everybody ended up going to court. Well, it was kind of odd because we had like 2 or 3 court dates prior and they kept pushing it off and pushing it off. Curators wasn't coming. They just kept pushing off, saying they had to reschedule. So everybody was getting really irate, upset and all of that. So when we went to actually saw her via Zoom, the judge pretty much dismissed the case because she said nobody had their paperwork. Everybody's stuff was messed up. It wasn't correct. And it really startled the family because we was like, look, okay, we got the administration, we got all this proof, we got the DNAs, we showing you where the money is at, we telling you what happened to us, why we don't have it. She got upset, she shut it down, said this case is not complete, y'all don't have everything you need to have. She said, I'm closing this case. Now keep in mind, this was like last year, and me and my sisters have been still digging and dabbing, trying to find out more information, which we did locate a bank. We got a lot of information that we dug out, and the only thing that's holding us back now is the fact that the administration is being a butthole. So we're in the process right now of waiting for that to happen. You know, after administration is done here in Cobb County, the next thing that we would have to do next is go file for a motion of a new trial, which is in the Red Pole City, Baton Rouge, Bon Ton, in front of Judge Medley again. That is our last step. Once we get the administration that we need to position, we have been robbed and denied of our position because I heard through grapevine that the money from my grandfather from when he was in prison, there was some money that was set aside. But I heard it was like over $2,000, you know, 200 years ago. You know, that's a lot of money. So I'm stuck right now because now these people know who we are. And regardless if it's an administration or not, or we submitted this in the courts in Baton Rouge, them people know who we are. And they playing the field. That's why my mom, she died 2013, and they've been fighting all the years of their life, and never once them people had said anything. They never, like, I keep hearing through multiple people and lawyers that we've had, lawyer after lawyer, they all said they know who y'all are and they don't want to give it to y'all. That's what they said. They know who we are and they don't want to give it to us. So what are we to do as a family that deserves the royalty, the inheritance of what our great-great-grandfather had awarded to his offspring in a letter, and it was written out to the Parish of Orleans Courts Sheriff Department that had control of it when he died. Back then, y'all gotta remember, there was no digital computers, there wasn't none of that. Everything was written by hand on a piece of paper. This thing goes really deep, and I'm tired of people not allowing our voice to be heard. We need media coverage. We need someone to help us push this and get where we need to get to the next level. And it's not right for my mom and her siblings, of everything they worked hard for, go in vain because we are black, color of our skin. I'm sorry to say it and put it out there like that, but Europeans, the French, whatever, they know who we are. They know we're born. We're part of the family. That's what the problem is. A lot of these white Frenchmen was having sex with these black women, okay, having these kids when they were married and sending them off to another family, raising them up so they can be a slave herder in the house. You know, this is how they operated. This is what they did. So being that we have that blood, do we not have the right to claim our right? Yes, we do, because we are entitled to royalty, to an inheritance that these people will not give us. So I'm telling y'all right now, this will be a to be continued situation. We are still fighting this case to this day, and we are in the year 2025, and I'm talking to you today. So this will be a to be continued situation. We're gonna let you guys know what happens next. Interested in getting our story and getting more in detail, all the information will be on the documentary. I'm out of here. Mac Johnson, Harris, Desveen, rest in peace, Valerie, Desveen, my mom, all her grandchildren, and my sisters, Elfrida, Sean Morgan, Frida Desveen, Tiffany Harris, rest in peace, Jennifer, Sabrina, Leslie. I love you and I miss you, but we got to continue this fight until we get to where we need to get to. So once again, that's it, man.